Hey, it's Barnes, Barnaby Wellington here. You know, like I always say, I'm Barnes, so be well. About to actually get my tea to going right now. Tea today. We got some Moroccan mint from Just Add Honey out there on the belt line down in Atlanta. Just Add Honey got a couple ounces here, just getting it prepared. But yeah, so we're back. Another episode of Gen Dive, Generational Diversity. Just coming to talk about some of the things that we deal with on a daily, a weekly, monthly, hell, yearly. Some of us on this journey for the past decade, almost trying to, just figure out some things with how these generations operate within each other, and obviously the differences that we face amongst that. So let me pour this good boiling water up with my chef man. You feel me? Let me see that right. And the thing about this Moroccan mint, so it has, I'm gonna tell you what all it got in it. So this Moroccan mint, the Moroccan mint, it has organic gunpowder, green tea, and organic spearmint in it. And so just reading the facts on it, say this blend combines two flavor powerhouses, gunpowder green tea and spearmint. The full-bodied, refreshing duo are a fantastic hot or ice and are the perfect addition to any tea party. And it's lightly caffeinated. So let me start my timer. It says, how long? 3 minutes. So I put it on like 2.5. I'll keep it on 3. All right. So yeah. So as you all can see down at the bottom, we got the banner going. It says, "What privileges did the generations have to grow with and grow into?" So that was one of the questions that I came up with myself. I thought of as I was, trying to figure out how I was going to present this generational diversity topic, this term, this brand, so to say, outside of the workplace. Like, how would I present that? I spoke about it in the workplace by obviously highlighting some of the good portions of, having the different diversity, the different generations within the companies. And then also I spoke on a little personal side of it with my company at the time. Just gave them some personal insight on what's going on within my household. So that's where I wanted to go. I didn't want to just continuously go into these different work seminars, work events, in which I will be. I definitely will be speaking at organizations and companies about generational diversity. But my aim, my goal will be when it comes to just in everyday living, which could translate into the workplace for sure, 100%. So I just gotta, people in your city. I'm in Atlanta, so people hit you up, let you know they're in Atlanta. It's Saturday, so I'm recording the day on Saturday. So basically, what privileges did the generations have to grow up with and grow into? So that's the question I asked myself. And I'm only just one person. I only have one brain. I'm, always been big on team, always been big on like team thinking, group thinking, even focus groups at some point. Like you need those extra brains around to get different perspectives. Like we're looking at this Moroccan mint T10. Like I'm looking at it from this side. You all see Moroccan mint, but I see the back description. If I turn it here, I'm looking at the brewing instructions and you're all looking at a nice Just Add Honey logo. So we can all be looking at the same thing, the same focal point, but we all have different perspectives depending on what you're looking at. Like I can look at a 6 on the ground, and you can be across from me looking at a 9, and someone to the next to me could be looking at an A, and another person looking at an E. So that's why I always like the group thinking. So just to jot out, blurt out some of my thoughts when it comes to the question that I asked myself. And feel free to add comments here. Like I said, DM me, PM me, hell, send me text messages if you got my number. But some of the privileges that I thought about were, um, college was pretty easy when it came to not easy, so to say, but that was the privilege that the generation before us had. So like, okay, that's my good old tea. We add some honey here. So yeah, being able to go to college and um, that was the goal. Get it out. I ain't gonna say get out the hood, but in some cases, get out of a bad, impoverished situation or a system-stricken situation, and actually go to college was what my parents' privileges was. And then also, when you look back at it now, they actually had the sense of community, the village, and then also um, going outside. Like neighbors were actually neighbors then. It wasn't just um, I'm gonna stay in my quarters. I'm gonna stay where I'm at, and not gonna be able to ask the neighbors for a egg or some sugar or something like that. So let's see. So yeah, I know I mentioned college. I mentioned the community um, and the village that we all have heard about. Like it takes a village or whatnot. That was a privilege back in the day. Like straight up, like I said, I was born 1990. My brother 1988. So I got cousins. I mean, I would say starting probably like 1978 because my mom 1970. So really 1980. But I know I got a couple cousins that's late 70s that pretty much raised me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't trying to say it like a bad way, like as far as parents didn't raise us, but the interactions, the engagement, the toughness, the attitude, the character building was done around my older cousins, my older aunts and uncles that were around my age range within 10, 15 years. Because like my uncle on my dad's side is 10 years older than me. I never once called him uncle. Like I might have him saved into my phone as uncle, but like Uncle Jamie, but like literally like he's 10 years older than me. When I was 2, he was 12. When I was 4, he was 14. So for me, 14 and a 4-year-old, that 14-year-old is gonna be throwing that 4-year-old around, especially a little boy type deal. So that I mean, not to say that doesn't go on a lot nowadays, but families have gotten smaller. Uh, and then in our generation, millennials, and then some before us, but well, the '80s millennials, some have decided not to have that many kids or just kids in general. Whether it be them not having the finances, them not finding the future, partner or wife or husband or whatnot, or just person to have a kid with in general. But then just, I mean, to be completely honest, kids are expensive, and there are some traumas that some of us, or if not all of us, have endured that has pretty much told us that we want to go a different route. We actually don't want to feel like um, we're forced to have children if it's not in the perfect conditions or in the ideal conditions or circumstances. And I get that, even though I have 2 children, but I think the sense of community and village has lost a little bit, and I could be wrong depending on where you're at. But like I said, back in the day, it was almost a given. All the kids was at one house. Whether, like I said, whether it ranged from infant all the way to 16, 17 years old. 16, 17-year-olds, they might be there up until nighttime come, and then out of 14, 13-year-olds taking care of the babies, and it just continue to revolve. And I mean, honestly, that was a privilege, bro. Like to be able to say, I'm gonna drop my kid off here to go to work. You know how clutch that was for my parents, your parents. That was, it's not like how it is nowadays. You had to literally take the job that was hiring. Like if that wasn't the job that worked with your work schedule, I mean with your baby schedule, your school schedule, or how you can get daycare or just care in general. Back in the day, it was grandma house, auntie house, my mama house, family friend house. Hell, you even had more in-home daycares that it's still. I mean, you was paying maybe $5 a kid type deal, or bringing some food stamps, or bringing some food over for all the kids, and they taken care of, and that was good living, man. Uh, I think I learned how to make cheese toast by having an older cousin that I was just not saying just dropped off to, but parents they doing stuff, got work, got extracurriculars, even maybe even going to school at that time. After going to work, having kids or whatnot, young, they still want to go to school. They drop us off. You feel me? They good over there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you didn't know who these people was with or who your child was with. Your child was with other children, their family, and you pretty much was groomed that way as well. Like you grew up in that same type of environment, interacting with your oldest cousins and older siblings and older family and friend members. So being able to drop your kids off to a local point, uh, that was a privilege, and um, and I'm using that word. I might be out of term when it comes down to it, but what do you think? What do you think were the privileges that our parents, the millennial parents, had growing up at the age of, whether they had kids young, whether they were focused on academics, whether they were, focused on extracurriculars or artistry so that they can pursue these things. I mean, on that same sword, when I speak on that, like what are their privileges from the generation before us? You know, there's a double side, another side to that sword. They say double-edged sword. All swords are double-edged. It's just whether one's dull and whether one's sharp is or not. But so on the other side of that sword, you do have sacrifices. So and that's in all generations. Obviously, we'll get to the most present one. I would say that's that we're holding it down the fort with millennials. But as far as the generation before us, that community, that village, that sense of I can actually get this help from people that actually care about my kids and not just care about paying for daycare, paying for childcare. So that's that privilege, but that sacrifice was you got a lot of kids that grew up, some would call latchkey kids, others would call them, home raising themselves type deal, and then also that sacrifice of not being there, being around. Like I said, by us being in the generation that we're in, and the workforce nowadays, a lot of things being remote. Some of our interactions with our kids are continuous, and that sacrifice that our parents had to make, whether if it was the pursuing of dreams, they had to sacrifice that because the access and the privileges that we had that I'm gonna get to later, they weren't there or they weren't as prevalent and the information wasn't there. You got to think about me speaking on college is as a privilege for the generation before us. I'm not saying everybody was able to get into college. I'm gonna talk about our generation and the privilege that we had with college as well. But the fact of the matter is, it was attainable for them. That was a way out for them. That was a way for them to be able to have a family, get a home, take care of their family, put their kids through college. That was the way to go. That was the goal. If there was a social media back then, I'm pretty darn sure that would be one of the big selling points. I can help you get your college credits, get your college admissions ready, get your college financial aid together, get your grants and stuff together, if those things were out. And like I said, those things might not have been out, but for them having to sacrifice time away from kids to go and do jobs that they had to do, for them to have to sacrifice dreams and aspirations that they've always had their entire life because of them having children or them having to grow up quick and raise older family members. That's a sacrifice that ultimately generations after them didn't have that as a sacrifice. It more was a privilege for them to have these different options. And that's why, I mean, it's pretty much a good segue to our generation, the millennials generation. So, what privileges did we have growing up and what we're utilizing today? And then, obviously, like we spoke on the generation before us, what sacrifices are we making? What sacrifice did we have to make? Um, just a quick recap, the generation before us, the privileges that they had, being able to go to college, knowing that that's a way out, get their home, get their family, send their kids to school, and just live a good life, the American dream. And then also being able to have that village, that community, to send kids to go to family members, have a place to stay, have a place to eat when you need a place in need. That general community feeling, that village. It takes a village. That term, that phrase actually meant something. That was a privilege back then. Also, being outside, interacting with the elements and the environment, scraping your knee, throwing rocks, eating food from the earth. That I know I was headed into the millennials' privileges and sacrifices, but I did not hit that one on the head. Eating food from the earth, watching generations before them plant food, watch it harvest, understanding the cycles of the environment and the soil. That was a privilege that they had. That was a huge privilege. I mean, literally, I go to my great grandmother's home down in Mobile, Alabama, down in Pritchard and Trinity Garden. I go down there and the pears are still falling. Blackberries still growing. Oranges, oranges down in Florida and my uncle's house still growing. And these are generations before my mom's generation, before her mom's generation had started this stuff and been doing this. So that's a privilege. Eating food from the earth, being outside, experimenting out in the world without having all this technology. Now, to get to our privileges and our sacrifices that we had to make, it starts with our parents' generation. So everything that I just mentioned that our parents were able to, take advantage of, have a privilege of, everything that I just mentioned that my parents had our parents had a privilege to encounter with, engage with. It leads us into our generation, everything that we have that we had the privilege to experience. Like, I didn't mention none of those things without having lived it and experienced it. Like, I was the golden boy, the golden baby in 1990. I was along with all the other 1990s babies. So like, I was born in September 1990. I got a cousin born a week after me in September, a couple weeks after me in October 1990. I got another cousin that was born in July 1990. I got another cousin that was born in June 1990, and all of us was actually in the same house, like growing up, like from birth. Like, it was my mom, her aunts had those other three 1990 babies. Now, all four of them had 1990 babies, like conceiving and having the pregnancy, but I was the only boy. So yes, I was the golden boy at that time. So for myself, I remember a lot. Not obviously not from an infant and 2-3 years old, but 4 years old, 5 years old. I remember all of us, the 90 babies, the 88 babies, my brother 89. So like, obviously all the family being around, you got kids from every year almost just merging together. And I lived it, man. I absolutely loved it. Like I said, a lot of the characteristics that I am, the fact that I'm knowing how to ride a bike, I'm knowing how to throw rocks, I'm knowing how to throw a football, I'm knowing how to pick berries off a leaf, off a tree. I'm knowing how to go get a whip, not a whip. I'm knowing how to go get a stick. Damn. I said a whip, but it's a stick that you use as a whip. A damn. Somebody help me out. But yeah, anyway, so I experienced those privileges, and that's how I know that those are privileges. Like, I wish that those still was here today. Like, not so much as a blind wish. Like, we can create that. That's the reason of this conversation. Being able to create that village, being able to create that community, and have that local point where, hey, your family, your village, this is where the kids go. We have to build that. Not saying like, oh, this is something to conquer all. No, we have to build these villages. We have to do that. And the way that we can build these villages again is by A, land, or B, community driven thought. So community driven thought is saying, hey, I'm not just going to go get this job just because I need this job. When someone has the resources to say, hey, you have a job as a caretaker already. We have this home where you can pay, you don't have to pay anything to live in, but yet from the 8 hours out of the day while everybody else is at work, you're gonna have 8 to 10 kids here. And when those when those kids get out of school, the older kids get out of school, they're gonna help you with those kids. And it ain't just you there. It can be others there. It can be other family members that are in that situation that need to just be in one local point, either working from home, and we're able to bring these kids here. Now, that's not a solution that I wrote down. That's not a solution I wrote down. That's just something with my one brain looking at it, just throwing it out there. Provoking thought, provoking conversation. You all see a different perspective, so I'm assuming you'll have a different expression on what I just spoke on. So in the comments, DM me, send me a text, let me know so that we can figure out which way that we can possibly include the community back into the village atmosphere. It takes a village. How can we include everyone a part of this village? How can we improve the village aspect? Help me out. Because if we can improve that, then we can take a lot of stress out of a lot of people. A lot of people. We can take a lot of stress off these mothers. We can take a lot of stress off these teachers. We take a lot of stress off these fathers. We take a lot of stress off these grandparents. We take a lot of stress off an entire generation that we groom up back the way that we were groomed up. Having to go through all of these technological changes when we know that we have a foundation of community and village, but yet we're farther away from that community and village as a millennial now. I'm on our ass, actually. This conversation is for us millennials. And I'm saying it this one time. I might say it again throughout this series, throughout this entire show. But I'm on our ass, millennials. If we got the foundation of our parents' generation, how we were raised and brought up, if we understood those privileges that they had, and that we grew up with those same privileges, think about the privilege that we had. What privilege did the millennials have growing up? Well, hell, the privilege of being raised within a village, being raised around the community, and our parents being able to drop us off at our grandmother's house, at our auntie's house, be raised by our older cousins, older siblings. Go outside and go get your knee scraped. Fall in that ditch. Hit him with that switch. I told you I remember. Hit him with that switch. And play hot water cornbread. Who know about that? Who know about hot water cornbread? But that was a privilege that we grew up with. And that's our foundation. And we pulled away so far from that because another privilege that we had was able to get into college quick. I didn't say easy. We was able to get into college quick. It was damn roadblocks for our generation before. Yeah, it was a privilege to go. They knew it was attainable. That was a way out. But for us, our parents, the generation before us, our parents, oh man, it was all college. You going to college, and then like for most of us, we was only going to go to college for the things that our parents were doing and or something that our parents influenced us on. So growing up, you know, it was just like, okay, yeah, we're going to college, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. It wasn't a guess. It was elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Our parents, it was, I don't know if we're going to college. You got to have a scholarship. You got to have the grades. You got to have the money. I might just work at this plant. But for us, it wasn't no plant. I'm not saying everybody. I know I got a good friend that helped me get into entrepreneur and business and service. And out of high school, he graduated with me. Out of high school, he had scholarships to play football and everything. Cam say, man, I'm going to work. He said, I'm going to work. Cam said, I'm going to work. It's because his generation before him, his parents, their privileges were a little different. Well, they took advantages from the generation before us. Like it's supposed to get better each generation, and that's what happened when it came to his situation. Generations before him, they had already found out the better, and from that point, Cam was just building off what his dad's legacy was. His dad's legacy is, and what his dad's legacy was. So that's the one. I'm not saying everybody generation was forced to go elementary, middle school, high school, college, but for the most part, most of our homes, we knew that shit. We had FAFSA, we had grants, we had Sallie Mae, all that stuff. Our parents ain't had that all the way. So yes, it was a privilege to know that college was attainable, but that real privilege that they had was knowing once they get to college, they can get a job so they can take care of a family and get a home and put their kids through college so that their kids can do better than them. That was the real sacrifice. I mean, the real privilege and sacrifice. Now, our real privilege when it come to college was be able to easy admissions. Now, FAFSA, the admissions office, you got stuff doing online now. Even, I mean, hell, my uncle graduated high school in 1998. And for him, I mean, he didn't play any sports, but the internet was just opening up around that time. But at the same time, it was pretty easy for him to get into that school. Now, when it came to, taking care of tuition and finding grants and making sure money is where it's supposed to be, that might have been, it wasn't all the way ironed out yet. But by the time 2008, 10 years later came around, yeah, automated process for FAFSA, whether you had the money to go to school or not. It was an automated process for you to go and get these grants, or go through Sallie Mae and get this school paid for. And that's a privilege that we had. Now, rather, if we noticed that privilege during that time, like for me, I didn't value it. I really didn't at the time. I didn't value it. I wasn't thinking about going to college so I can have a family and take care of that family and get a home and get a career and all this stuff. I wasn't thinking about that because I wasn't thinking about that in middle school, high school. And that's just me personally. I wasn't thinking about me getting this degree or going to school is a privilege so that I can take care of my family in the future. I was just thinking that this is just what I'm supposed to do, like that's just what I'm supposed to do. Now, another privilege that we had, the reason why I can say the whole, I didn't think that was, I wasn't thinking about that, is because we had other privileges. So I didn't know what I was going to go to college for, but obviously I knew I had to go to college. My parents went. It was, I mean, that's just all I knew. I didn't know that it was, I didn't know that it was, important. I didn't value it. I didn't value going to college. I really didn't. And the reason why I think is because another privilege that us as millennials had was the example of entrepreneurship and business. Being able to develop our own and create our own and be a part of um, small businesses. When I was 16 years old, a group of 7 of us, we created a entertainment group. We didn't know it was an entertainment group at the time, but we created an entertainment group and we hosted parties in high school. Literally, the promo and the marketing was, let's go to the movies, let's go to the skating rink, let's go to the mall and hand out flyers. And each weekend we out from school, we just hand out flowers. So we did flyers for 2 weekends out, 3 weeks before the party. Then it was word of mouth, going school to school, county to county. We packed down a full skating rink with no skates, just a party, a twerk fest, you can call it, with DJs. And we had the kitchen, we had the concession stand, everything. No drinks, obviously. But we made thousands of dollars, 16 years old, 2005, 2006. Thousands of dollars. A couple times, a few times. Man, we seen that. I knew for a fact this is something that we wanted to continue to do. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to keep doing this and go to school, like go to college, keep doing this. But obviously, liability. We were liable for, people inside the party, and obviously you have some emotion in you that you got a little liability for people outside the party. So if you know about anything about Clayton County skating rinks and the let outs, any part on the south side, shit, probably just in any hood in the world, but definitely in Atlanta, on the South Atlanta side, south side, that let out, shit happens. So for us, we had parents that really didn't have that upbringing of throwing parties at that large scale. Like, none of our parents had the experience of entrepreneurship or business. Like, we had some E-suite, like executive suite parents in our entertainment group. So like real big shit, but like when it comes to like their own developing, not just like an entity or organization telling them you got a budget to do something. Nah, this was our budget with the printing of the flyers, our budget with attaining the skating rink, our budget with concession and everything. And we did this multiple times. And like I said, that liability caught up with the let out, and things happened to where our parents just dissolved us, like literally dissolved us, like told us like, y'all ain't doing this no more. It trickles down because, again, that's a privilege for us to be able to do something like that, but it wasn't for our parents. So they don't know about, damn, these kids had something good going on. We might need to cultivate, harness this, and kind of just put our arms around it. But what do they know? They know nothing about this. And then for us, we just knowing that this is a privilege of us that we can have just by us working jobs since we were 14 years old. Like, our parents, it wasn't a privilege for them to work jobs at 14, 15. They had to work jobs. They sacrificed their young adult adolescence and all of that because of the things that they had to do. We had the privilege to work these jobs. And not only that, we had the privilege to think like, man, we can actually own our own stuff. We can own something. We can have a business. And that's us today. Like, that's us as millennials. The most small businesses ever at one time is now. And it's been like that since, the 80s baby has been of my age. So 30, 20, early 20s and 30s. Now, I bring that story up just to say, like, it was a privilege for us, and it still is a privilege for us to say that we can create small businesses and not have to immediately resort to college. We can become entrepreneurs and turn side hustles and hobbies into actual streams of revenue, and not just one stream of revenue. Like, we can literally take one product and turn it to multiple streams of revenue. That is a privilege of us. Our parents don't know shit about it. They don't know anything about it. Some of them do. Some of them are open to it, but it's a privilege for us that we should not take for granted, and we should nurture that as the foundation for our kids, the generations after us, to understanding that they're going to be already surpassed us when it comes down to what they say, okay, college, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, business, whatever it is, or just no work at all. They just want to work influencer wise. I haven't got to that. They got the privilege of being influencers or privileges of being entertainers, privileges of being um, themselves, free. And I'm saying that loosely, but that's that's what it looks like because we show signs of rebellion when it comes to our parents. Like I can remember when I ended up when I dropped out of college, it wasn't a decision for myself. I was hell. I lost my scholarship, football scholarship. Had a baby on the way, college. She was on the way, and I just said, man, like this isn't real. Like I got to go work. Like it clicked on me from like the generation before me. Like, hold on, bro, you going to go college and thinking about yourself, man. You need to sacrifice something. So I sacrificed going to college so that I can take care of my child. But I also use it as a positive. Like I can start my own business too. Back then, our parents, the generation before us, it was literally just go to work. Like I went to work as a CVS as a supervisor. Good job. I was 21 years old. Like if my parents would have had that job in my like it put me in their generation, it's just CVS until I can work up the ladder. It ain't no, oh, let me work at CVS overnight and work on my business throughout the day. I got that privilege to think that much and work that much, like actually put feet forward to go in and say, hey, let me buy this pressure washer. Let me go speak to this parking lot owner that has these 18-wheeler dump trucks and ask them, can I power wash all the dump trucks whenever they come back from a load during the day? Like they didn't have that privilege to think of that because honestly they had to sacrifice so much, and that's what my head went to as soon as I, like I said, lost my scholarship, had a baby on the way. You know, I gotta think like, man, reality is this child needs to be taken care of, and you need to sacrifice your time trying to going back to college and not being able to put food on the table or have a roof over her head. So that's what I did. But I also had the privilege of starting a business, or at least thinking about starting business. Had that time and that examples around me and saying, oh, this person did it in this generation. So if they're able to have a job and have a business or entrepreneurship during the day, then I can do it. So that privilege is, it's like I said, the foundation that I thought of was going to work, but being that woman, the generation that I'm in, I was able to have that privilege to building out businesses. Our parents didn't. So that's a void in conversation that I have with my parents that I've been having, since I dropped out of college. I was telling them, yeah, I'm building. I was showing them my notebooks. I was showing them everything I was writing. I was drawing pictures of how my trailer would look, drawing pictures of different logo designs, and just happy, just excited, just letting them know, like, yeah, everything's gonna be all right. Like, if I can do 2 houses a day for 60 days, that's gonna be $22,000 type deal, and this it's attainable. I believe it. I believe it. I don't have to see it. I know for a fact if I do it, I can. It'll happen. Kyle, you need to damn focus on your kid. You need to focus on going back to school. You need to focus on finishing your degree. That's all I can hear. That's all I heard, actually. Um, you need to have a job to get a job. You need to focus on that job so you can build up that ladder once you get, you know what I'm saying? So, like, that's all I would get. It wasn't cultivated, like I said, back in high school when we making those thousands of dollars, like to prove, like we've already proven that we can do it. But circumstances is, as a parent, I mean, it's nothing against my parents, because like I said, that's why we're having this talk now, so that we can get other perspectives and understanding. But literally, man, it was shot down every time it was spoke on. Kyle, you got a kid on the way. You need to be thinking about a future. You need to be going back to school to finish your degree so you can get a better job than working at CVS supervisor overnight. And it was a little controversial for me, because I'm like, I am thinking about her future. I'm the reason that I'm thinking about her future is because I want to leave something for her. Like, I'm thinking about her now. Like, if I plant something now for my own, by the time this child is 10, my 10-year goal will be met. Man, it was hard. I was able to push through all that doubt, all that, the care that my parents and support that my parents gave me was the care and support that I needed, but not the one that I wanted for the things that I wanted. So, like I said, I'm very much grateful for their care and support, but it wasn't what I wanted. And that's, like I said, that's why we're having this conversation. So the generations before us can know that we're not going to be as closed off because of the privileges that we've had. We have to know the privileges as millennials that we've had are privileges for the next generation and the next generation after that. But we have to be open enough to understanding that they're going to have their own route based on the experiences that they live. We have not lived those experiences. We have not walked their path, but we have their foundation. And we have to cultivate that foundation based off of our experiences. They don't know about the village. They don't know about community besides online. And that's just proven fact. You're like, there are so many more privileges that we grew up with. Like I said, we had technology. We had to sacrifice the fact that we didn't govern this as we were the guinea pigs. Like, we didn't put any policy around it. Growing up, we didn't know. Here, just take it. Get it. Where is it? Here, just get it. Just get it. There you go. Tell us how you like it. Oh, we love it. But they didn't tell us that we needed to govern this or make policy for it. Like ourselves, not the government. We have to govern ourselves. And this is a part of the conversation as well. I ought to change the banner right now, but I don't want to pause it for a minute. But for the most part, we have to govern ourselves when it comes to our next generation. The generations that are here now, that's what I'm saying, the generations after us. Because that's the village now. That's the community now. If we don't govern that, then we're going to be way more salty and way more hating as the generation before us was and are. We're going to have so much to say when we could have had, when we had so much that we could have done. And that's why I'm doing my part now. You won't catch me hating on the generation before us. And then also, I'm not about to go back and forth with them when it comes to what we did or what they did or what we didn't do and what they didn't do or what they have and what we don't have. I'm not going back and forth with them. It's all love for me and perspective. But what I will do, I will blame us as millennials for the downfall of this social media. We have to take some accountability. It ain't our fault that this shit happened. It ain't our fault that we didn't have any governance around it. But it'll be our fault if we don't do anything about it. Millennials, us. So I'm saying that not to hate on anybody again, but we had some privileges from our foundation for us to look at the generation after us and say, y'all just acting a fool. But we know for a fact that we all talk and we ain't doing nothing about it. They only emulating what they see from us. If they're only mimicking what they see on the internet from when they were born, or from what they see in their home from when they were born, if they're only doing the things that we don't want them to do, maybe you need to stop doing the things that they're showing, that you're showing them to do. I don't want my kids to repeat the mistakes that I made. I don't. I made some mistakes before. And I don't want my kids to repeat any of them. If they need to for their development, then so be it. But I don't want my kids to look on this internet and say it's okay to do that because my daddy did it. My daddy did it. I said they can go back up. I mean, the database is always gonna be here. I don't want my kids to do that. Can your kids look at your internet profile, and not just one platform, and our own platforms for the entire career that you've had social? Can they look back at it and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna do that"? And can you whoop their ass based off of the stuff that you did? No, you can't. No, you can't. You cannot whoop their ass because they're gonna look right at your database and see all the shit that you did and be like, "Oh, I can do all that because my mama did it, my daddy did it, my uncle did it." That's how it's your fucking fault. That's why it's your fault, man. Tighten up. I ain't telling you what to do with your bodies. I ain't telling you what to do with your money. I ain't telling you what you do in your home. But I'm telling you now, you are the reason why our kids are the way that they are. Keep it up. Keep it up. Ain't gonna be no nursing home for you. Ain't gonna be no nursing home. It's gonna be visits. It's gonna be constant communication with authorities. It's gonna be trauma that ain't been discovered, that ain't been developed, it ain't been acknowledged, it ain't been nothing. It's just gonna be a lot of finger pointing and blaming. I know. I'm, I'm literally talking about the generation before us, but I just know it'll repeat itself if we don't do something about it. We got all the information, all the influences, all the advisors and mentors in the world to have this conversation. So let's talk. So I hope that helped. Comment based off anything I said today. Want to know what privileges did the generations have uh, to grow with each other, with and grow into. You know, we're gonna keep having this conversation, man. It's the only way that we're gonna be able to help the generation after us understand why things are the way that they are. Um, and like I said, if you want to be a part of this, add questions, be on the show, let me know. And I said, man, I'm Barnes, Barnaby Wellington. Be well.